Stay with us for Andy Andrews' 7 Decisions for Personal Success.
I remember my dad getting on to me about something one day saying, hey, when Abraham Lincoln was your age, Abraham Lincoln had a job. When Abraham Lincoln was your age, Abraham Lincoln walked 12 miles through the snow to get to school. I didn't say it out loud, but I remember thinking, hey, when Abraham Lincoln was your age, he was president. Okay?
Thank you for staying with us, and please welcome the talented and very funny Andy Andrews.
Hi, how are you?
It is good to have you here.
I'm so glad to be here.
It's good to have you here. You know, it is so interesting because when I met you out there, the first thing I thought was you got to find something really funny. I couldn't find anything funny to say.
That's okay. That's all right.
Is that okay?
When I'm off, you don't have to be funny around me.
Okay.
People expect me to be funny enough. So.
They expect you to be funny all the time, don't they?
Yeah, and I have not been normal for years. I'm often not funny, but I'm always abnormal. Even when I was a little kid, I would see things very differently. You know, my mom would say, don't play with those arrows, they'll poke your eye out. Don't play with that stick, it'll poke your eye out. And I'm 6 years old,
Right.
but I'm thinking you can't poke your eye out with a stick. You can poke it in.
Okay.
You poke it out, you got to run it up through your nose, up like this. And I would see things very differently. And that was really the basis for
the comedy.
You know, for growing up and being strange. I guess.
Yeah, so that's where it came from. So from that, you know, just some little things about life. That's what you really.
I am a cultural anthropologist. You know, I'm a person who looks and observes people and have come up with some pretty unique observations. And that's really how everything turned into serious stuff. You know, when I go in for the President of the United States, now he says, hey, we want you to do your serious stuff too. So I'm thinking either my serious stuff is very good or my comedy is not very good. You know? So here, I know you're a comedian, but just be serious.
Just be serious. Well, that is great. Now, I was reading your bio, and you got all of these things you write and all of this, and then it says, and an avid fisherman.
Yeah, and I think that just shows that I have no clue what I do. I really don't.
It's like that was thrown in there.
Oh yeah. Well, you know, I don't know what I do, and then we put the book out. The Traveler's Gift came out, and it was on. It is on the New York Times fiction list, the Wall Street Journal nonfiction list, the Publishers Weekly religion list, Barnes & Noble self-help, New York Times business. You know, nobody knows anything about what I do or where it comes from.
So what do you do? Where did it come from, the Traveler's Gift?
Well, the Traveler's Gift is a story. You know, I'm not the smartest guy in the world. I'm not the guy you want writing a textbook. I can barely read them. They just kind of bore me. But stories I love. And so this is a story of a family going through a tough time. And the dad gets to travel through time, meeting with 7 historical figures who are also going through a tough time. He gets to sit down with Harry Truman while Truman's determining how to end the war, and Anne Frank while she's in the annex, and King Solomon right after he says, bring me my sword and I'll tell you whose baby this is. And so each of them gives him one of 7 decisions that if he puts it in his life, things will be different. So it's a story that teaches some stuff. And I don't know if you know this about me, but when I was 19 years old, both my parents died in the same year. My mom of cancer, my dad in a car accident, and through a series of bad decisions over the next several years, all my own, I might add, I ended up literally homeless before that was even a word. I slept under a pier occasionally, and when you're in that situation, which my dad was a minister, okay? And so I grew up hearing that Bible verse, God will put a man after his own heart where he wants him to be. And I'm thinking, thanks, you put me under a pier, yeah. And so my question at the time is life a lottery ticket? Or is there something that we can learn that we can make choices and direct our future? And I read tons of biographies trying to find common denominators between these successful, happy people. And I found 7 things. I found 7 things that each of them had in their lives, and those are the 7 things I used to pull myself out of the circumstances, and those are the 7 decisions in the Traveler's Gift.
And basically, they can help you have personal success.
Absolutely. And we call it personal success because you and I know that success doesn't always have to do with finances. You know, we know some very successful people who aren't financially on the highest rungs of the ladder. But personal success has to do with success as a parent and success as a spouse and success as a friend. And of course, the financial success is in there as well. But the thing that I want people to know about the Traveler's Gift is that these 7 decisions, now get this, are you ready for this? They work every time.
Okay, so
every
this is
single
systematic.
time. Yeah, I mean, but they work whether you know them or not.
Okay.
Because they're principles. They're not ideas. They're not theory. They're principles. It's just like the principle of gravity was working long before the apple ever fell on Newton's head. But once it did, and once he understood it, then we as a society were free to harness the principle to create airline flight. Well, the principles of personal success are exactly the same. They're floating around out there, so why shouldn't we learn them and harness them to create a future of our choosing?
Okay, so what I want to do is I want to use those principles. We're going to talk about them one by one, and we'll use them. Really, we'll talk between artists because we've got some great artists here
I can't
today.
wait to hear them.
It's going to be great. So let's go over the first one. But first of all, before we start, all of the principles, you say that they're systematic and they can work, but I bet when we start going through them, it's not an easy thing because many of them are going to require you to really
do something.
Yeah, to do something.
You know, and these 7 decisions, you know, when you just list them, you might hear them and think, yeah, okay,
That's
my
easy,
granddaddy told me that.
Right.
But the key is the power that they have together.
Okay.
All 7 of them together, and we'll go through some intricacies of them, and I think it'll be fun.
Okay, well, I think so too. More music coming up on Deborah.